This is Major Daniel Bamidele Idowu, a disciplined and patriotic Nigerian army officer who was caught in the complex wave of military coups, counter-coups and betrayals. In 1983, he was detained for weeks for leaking a coup plot, but was later executed in 1986 for not leaking another coup plot. His tragic fate reflects the cruel paradox of tyranny, where talking too much or keeping silence can both be fatal. His story serves as a chilling reminder that in oppressive regimes, innocence offers no protection and silence can become a death sentence. In this video, I will dive into the tragic story of Major Daniel Bamidele Idowu, who was killed for not leaking a coup plot after a painful past experience. I will also share his final words as written in his letter to the tribunal that sentenced him to death. Welcome to this edition of Hispo Media. My name is Gabriel Adidia. And a moment before we begin, I invite you to like this video and subscribe to Hispo Media if you have not done so already. Thank you. But first, let us take a step back and examine his humble beginning and his exciting career. Major Daniel Bamidele Idowu was born in the southern city of Port Harcourt to a Yoruba father and an Igbo mother in 1949. In 1968, at the age of just 19 and 1 year after the Civil War began, Bamidele Idowu joined the Nigerian army as a non-commissioned officer. During that period, young men were encouraged and excited to join the military in what they believed was a war to sustain the existence of Nigeria. Despite his relatively young age at the time and lack of experience, he excelled as a soldier in the 3rd Marine Commando Division, initially under the command of Colonel Benjamin Adekunle and later Olusegun Obasanjo. When the war ended in January 1970, Bamidele Idowu went back to the NDA and was commissioned on July 29, 1970. He eventually worked as a military training officer at the academy before being assigned to the 12th Infantry Brigade in Aba as a company commander. For a brief period, Bamidele served under Michael Iyoshi, a chief officer who subsequently rose to the rank of lieutenant colonel but was also executed along with Bamidele. Iyoshi was a superb soldier who received the prestigious Sword of Honor as a finest cadet and performed admirably in the lieutenant to captain and captain to major promotion exams in his badge. In 1974, Bamidele traveled to the United Kingdom for further military training. Following another impressive performance, he was nominated for advanced infantry training at the U.S. Army Infantry Corps in Fort Benning, Georgia, where he graduated with high recommendations. Soon after, he received a personal letter of congratulations from the then Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General T.Y. Danjuma. Afterwards, Bamidele entered the junior division of the Ghana Staff College, Teshi, where he once again achieved the highest rank of command during the final military exercise. According to military historian Noah Omoegui, from 1976 to 1979, Bamidele was a Grade 2 staff officer in the G branch operations at the Army headquarters. When he returned from Teshi in 1979, he was named Grade 2 Staff Officer for Training at Nigeria's Defense Academy, NDA. After completing Senior Division Staff Training in Jaji, he was appointed General Staff Officer to Operations and Training at the headquarters of the 3rd Armored Division in Jos. During his tour of duty, he was nominated for service abroad. In 1982, he served as operations officer for the Nigerian battalion NIDBAD, which was part of the United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon, UNIFIL. Indeed, this was the last Nigerian battalion that was sent to Lebanon, as President Shagari withdrew Nigeria from UNIFIL. After returning from Lebanon, Major Bamidele Idowu served as the operations officer for the 3rd Division headquarters during the border conflict with Chad. In August 1983, Nigeria had a general elections and Shagari was re-elected and sworn in October of the same year. That same month, Bamidele left Jos for Kaduna to print his divisional brief for the Chief of Army Staff Conference. But something really interesting happened during this trip that will share Bamidele's views about the institution he serves. While in Kaduna, Bamidele heard rumors of a planned military coup against the new democratic administration of Shehu Shagari. As soon as Bamidele returned to Jos, he reported a rumor to his general officer commanding, Brigadier Muhammadu Buhari. Bamidele had no idea that Buhari was part of the plot to overthrow the government. He was arrested a week after reporting the attempted coup and accused of planning to overthrow Shagari's government. Bamidele was shocked and devastated. He protested his innocence, but it all fell on deaf ears. But all this was contrived to mislead the Shagari government. In the early hours of one October morning, he was hurriedly put on a plane and taken to Lagos and imprisoned in the Directorate of Military Intelligence at Tego Barracks. While this was going on, Umaru Shinkafi, the chief of the National Security Organization (NSO), learned of a planned coup against his principal, Shagari, and told the president. Following Bamidele's detention, the NSO was notified that the coup planner who was traveling around the country to meet with other officers had been apprehended. Although Shinkafi told Shagari of Bamidele's detention, he was not convinced, but he followed the trial with keen interest. Bamidele was interrogated by military police while fake witnesses were paraded. He continued to deny plotting a coup or being involved in any plan to remove Shagari from office. After a month of detention, he was finally released on November 25, 1983, after no shred of evidence was found to corroborate the accusation against him. Meanwhile, the plot to overthrow Shagari continued in the background as senior military officers in Lagos put finishing touches to their plan. However, a week before the coup was carried out, Shinkafi resigned in what many believe was due to the impending coup. On December 31st, Shagari was removed from office and Buhari was made the head of state the following day. In an interview, however, Buhari denied involvement in the 1983 coup, stating, and I quote, "I couldn't overrun Lagos from Jos, so my colleagues in the military decided to make me head of state." However, whether or not Buhari actively participated in the coup that deposed Shagari, he became president on January 1st, 1984. This came as a big surprise to Bamidele, who had reported the rumored coup to the same Buhari, his general officer commanding. Later, his name, along with others, was submitted for retirement. Perhaps, remembering Bamidele's ordeal for which he was innocent, Buhari removed his name at the last minute and deployed him to Jaji as a directing staff. But here is a tricky path. The Buhari military regime lasted for only 20 months before it was overthrown in a palace coup in August 1985. General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida was proclaimed as the new head of state while Buhari was detained in Benin. He then set up the Armed Forces Ruling Council. In the early hours of December 17, 1985, some Air Force, Army and Naval officers were arrested on suspicion of plotting to topple Babangida's regime, which had only been in power for 4 months. These arrests would last for weeks, during which hundreds of officers and men were rounded up. Among them was Major Bamidele Idowu and Major General Mamman Vatsa, Babangida's childhood friend, who was accused of planning and financing the purported coup. Bamidele was implicated in the conspiracy because of a meeting he had with Lieutenant Colonel Michael Yoshi and other senior officers at a guest house in Makurdi, where political criticisms of the Babangida's administration were made, but no seditious nor operational coup details were discussed. A few colleagues had made political criticism about the new regime and the need to return to discipline. To the untrained ear, these might have been mere barracks chatters, but in the deadly political landscape of the Nigerian military, even the hints of the coup could spell doom. Following a preliminary special investigation panel that was chaired by Brigadier Sani Sami, selected cases were referred to court-martial. The trial began on Monday, January 27, 1986, with 17 officers being tried at the Brigade of Guard headquarters on Victoria Island in Lagos by a special military tribunal set up by Major General Domkat Bali, the then Minister of Defense. The 17 accused officers were Major General Mamman Vatsa, Lieutenant Colonel Musa Bitiyong, Lieutenant Colonel Chris Oche, Lieutenant Colonel Michael A. Iyoshi, Lieutenant Colonel M. Effiong, Major Daniel Bamidele Idowu, Major D. E. West, Major J. O. Onyeke, Major Tobias Akwashike, Captain G. I. L. Sese, Lieutenant K. G. Takpa, Commander A. Ogweji, Wing Commander B. E. N. Ekele, Wing Commander Adamu Sakaba, Squadron Leader Martin Olufororunsho Luther, Squadron Leaders C. Ode, and Squadron Leader A. Ahura. Major General Charles B. Ndiomu chaired the tribunal, which also included Brigadier Yerima Kure, Commodore Moritala Nyaku, Colonel Rufus Kopolati, Colonel Okpeleya, Lieutenant Colonel D. Mohammed, and Alhaji Maman Nasarawa, who was the Commissioner of Police. Major Akin Kejawa, a personal friend of Bamidele, served as a judge advocate, and the prosecution team included Colonel Lawrence Owumarugi, Major N. N. Mansa, Major B. Makanju, and Captain Y. A. Amadu. The tribunal that tried him and others was swift and ruthless. Despite his defense that he had neither been part nor endorsed any coup plans, the weight of the accusation was too heavy to shake off. The mere knowledge of the supposed coup plot without reporting it was enough to seal his fate. On February 25, 1986, just a month after the trial began, some of the officers were sentenced to death while others received life sentences. Bamidele was one of those who was condemned to death. In his speech to the tribunal, Bamidele admitted knowledge of a planned coup but denied any involvement in the plot. He explained that the reason he failed to notify the military leadership of the coup was that less than 3 years earlier, he was arrested and detained for reporting a coup and did not want a repeat of the same situation. In his last words, he said, and I quote, "Ahead of the 1983 coup planning, told my GOC General Muhammadu Buhari, who detained me for 2 weeks in Lagos. Instead of a pat on the back, I received a stab. How then do you expect me to report this one? This trial marks the eclipse of my brilliant and unblemished career of 19 years. I fought in the civil war with the ability it pleases God to give me. It is unfortunate that I'm being convicted for something which I have had to stop on 2 occasions. This is not self-adulation, but a sincere summary of the qualities inherent in me. It is an irony of faith that the president of the tribunal, who in 1964 felt that I was good enough to take training in the United Kingdom, is now saddled with the duty of showing me the exit from the force and the world," he concluded. Meanwhile, words of his sentences sent shockwaves through the military and beyond. Many believed he was a scapegoat or a sacrificial lamb offered to send a message to the rest of the armed forces. Officers who had served with him whispered in corners, mourning the faith of a man they knew to be loyal. Appeals for mercy were made to the head of state, but in the cold machinery of military regime, mercy was an alien concept. On the dark morning of Wednesday, March 5, 1986, under the gaze of the very institution he had sworn to serve, Major Daniel Bamidele Idowu and 9 others were executed by firing squad. The gunshots that echoed in the still air were a sad reminder that in times of dictatorship, even silence could be a serious crime. In another development, there have been conflicting reports about what happened after the execution. While some have claimed that the officers were buried in an unmarked mass grave, others say acid was poured on the bodies of the 10 officers to destroy them. What is indisputable is the fact that there is no official information on what happened to the bodies. Many of the officers were among the best in the military. And so, history remembers Idowu as a man who was caught in the complex web of an unforgiving system, a man whose only crime was knowing too much but saying too little. For more interesting stories like this, please click here and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Hispo Media if you have not done so already. And I will see you in the next one. Thank you very much for watching. Peace.